The hearing room froze. Jasmine Crockett stood, eyes locked on Kash Patel, and slowly raised a blood-red, stamped, top-secret folder. "This ends now," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. Patel's smirk vanished. His hand shook. Everyone could feel it. Whatever was inside that folder was about to ruin him, live on national TV. The House Oversight Committee hearing room fell dead silent as Representative Jasmine Crockett slowly stood up, her piercing gaze fixed on Kash Patel like a predator who had cornered her prey. The former Trump official, moments earlier radiating confidence about his FBI director nomination, suddenly went pale as Crockett lifted a classified folder that would destroy everything. "Mr. Patel," she declared with prosecutorial precision, "these classified documents prove you deliberately hid critical January 6th intelligence and then lied to Congress about it under oath." The room exploded in shocked gasps as cameras captured Patel's face crumbling in real time, his hands visibly shaking as the weight of exposure hit him. What nobody knew was that Crockett had been secretly working with intelligence whistleblowers for 6 months, gathering evidence of what they called the most dangerous government cover-up in decades. The documents in her possession didn't just prove Patel lied, they exposed a systematic conspiracy to hide intelligence that could have prevented January 6th entirely. These defense intelligence memos show you personally received warnings about planned Capitol violence 3 days before January 6th, Crockett continued, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. "Not only did you bury these reports, but you ordered your staff to classify them as top secret to hide them from other agencies." She held up a document stamped, "Top Secret," in blood-red letters, visible to millions watching live. Patel's attorney frantically whispered damage control while sweat beaded on his forehead, but it was too late. The smoking gun was now public. This was only the beginning of what would become the most explosive congressional hearing since Watergate. The freshman congresswoman from Texas was about to reveal a network of officials who spent years covering up their role in America's darkest day. As she prepared to drop the next bombshell, viewers nationwide were about to discover that everything they thought they knew about January 6th was a carefully constructed lie. What Crockett reveals next will completely shatter your understanding of January 6th and expose a conspiracy that goes straight to the top. Hit that like button and subscribe because the evidence about to unfold will change American politics forever. This wasn't just another political scandal, this was the moment that could bring down the entire post-January 6th narrative that America had been fed for years. If Kash Patel, one of the most powerful intelligence officials in the Trump administration, had deliberately hidden warnings about the Capitol attack, it meant that January 6th wasn't just a security failure, it was a calculated betrayal of American democracy at the highest levels. The implications were staggering. Every congressional investigation, every media report, every official conclusion about that day had been built on a foundation of lies. The stakes couldn't be higher for American democracy itself. If government officials could systematically cover up intelligence failures that led to an attack on the U.S. Capitol, then bury that evidence for years while innocent people faced prosecution, what else were they hiding? This revelation threatened to unravel not just Patel's career, but the credibility of every institution that had signed off on the official January 6th story. The FBI, the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, all of them had either been deceived or were complicit in the cover-up. For Jasmine Crockett, this moment represented the ultimate test of congressional oversight power. As a freshman representative who had been dismissed by Washington insiders as inexperienced, she now held evidence that could reshape American politics forever. But she also knew that exposing this conspiracy would make her a target of the most powerful people in government. The intelligence community doesn't forgive those who reveal their secrets, and Patel's allies in the deep state would stop at nothing to destroy her credibility before she could destroy theirs. The American people deserve to know the truth about what their government knew and when they knew it. Every family member of January 6th victims, every person who had been prosecuted for their role that day, every citizen who believed in government accountability was about to discover that they had been systematically lied to by the very institutions sworn to protect them. This wasn't just about Kash Patel's lies, it was about whether democracy could survive when those in power choose deception over truth. What Crockett was about to reveal would force America to confront an uncomfortable reality, that the January 6th attack wasn't prevented not because of incompetence, but because powerful people made deliberate choices to let it happen. The question that would haunt the nation was simple: if they covered this up, what else don't we know? Jasmine Crockett wasn't supposed to be the one to bring down Kash Patel. The 43-year-old former criminal defense attorney from Dallas had only been in Congress for 2 years, but she carried herself with the lethal precision of someone who had spent decades dismantling lies in courtrooms across Texas. Before politics, Crockett had built her reputation destroying corrupt cops and crooked prosecutors who thought they were untouchable. Her specialty was taking down powerful men who believed their positions made them immune to consequences. Now, she had set her sights on the biggest target of her career. Crockett's rise to Congress was meteoric and unconventional. After representing victims of police brutality and government misconduct for over a decade, she shocked the Texas political establishment by defeating a 20-year incumbent in the Democratic primary. Her campaign slogan was simple but terrifying to those in power: "I prosecute liars for a living." What made her dangerous wasn't just her legal skills, it was her absolute fearlessness when facing authority figures who tried to intimidate her. She had stared down federal judges, police chiefs, and district attorneys, and none of them had broken her. Kash Patel was about to learn why. On the other side sat Kash Patel, the 44-year-old son of Indian immigrants who had climbed the Washington power ladder with ruthless efficiency. Starting as a low-level DOJ prosecutor, Patel had transformed himself into one of Trump's most trusted intelligence operatives, accumulating more classified access and behind-the-scenes influence than officials twice his age. His specialty was making problems disappear before they became scandals. For 4 years, he had operated in the shadows, wielding enormous power while maintaining a public profile so low that most Americans had never heard his name. What made Patel truly dangerous was his mastery of the intelligence bureaucracy's darkest secrets. He knew where everybody was buried, which officials had skeletons in their closets, and exactly how to weaponize classified information to destroy his enemies. During his time at the Pentagon and National Security Council, Patel had perfected the art of selective intelligence sharing using classified access to protect allies and eliminate threats. He had survived every previous attempt to expose his activities because he always knew more secrets about his accusers than they knew about him. The two had never faced each other directly, but they had been on a collision course for years. Crockett had spent her entire career fighting the kind of government corruption that Patel embodied, while Patel had built his power by exploiting the exact legal loopholes that Crockett specialized in closing. She represented everything he feared: accountability, transparency, and someone immune to the intimidation tactics that had silenced his previous critics. He represented everything she had sworn to destroy: corruption disguised as patriotism, power without accountability, and the belief that some people were above the law. Now, in the most watched congressional hearing in years, these two forces were about to collide with nuclear intensity. Crockett had the evidence to destroy Patel's career and potentially send him to prison. But Patel had the connections and classified knowledge to destroy anyone who threatened him. Only one of them would survive this confrontation intact, and the outcome would determine whether truth or power would prevail in modern America. But what neither of them knew was that this confrontation had been orchestrated by forces far more powerful than either of them realized. Stay tuned, because the real puppet masters behind this explosive showdown are about to be revealed, and their identities will shock you to your core. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because this story goes deeper than anyone imagined. What nobody in that hearing room knew was that Jasmine Crockett's devastating evidence had come from the most dangerous source imaginable: a secret network of intelligence officers who had been planning Kash Patel's downfall for over 3 years. These weren't ordinary whistleblowers, these were active CIA and Defense Intelligence Agency operatives who had watched Patel systematically destroy American national security from the inside and decided that stopping him was worth risking their own lives and careers. The operation began in late 2021 when a senior DIA analyst codenamed Patriot 7 made contact with Crockett's office through encrypted channels that even the NSA couldn't trace. The message was chilling. Kash Patel didn't just fail to prevent January 6th, he actively enabled it by burying intelligence that could have stopped the attack. We have the proof, but we need someone in Congress brave enough to use it. What followed was 6 months of the most secretive intelligence-gathering operation ever conducted against a former government official. The evidence that landed on Crockett's desk read like a spy thriller, but every document was authentic and verified through multiple intelligence sources. Internal Pentagon emails showed Patel receiving detailed warnings about planned violence at the Capitol on January 3, 2021. Text messages between Patel and unknown associates discussed managing the optics of January 6. Most damning of all were recorded phone calls where Patel explicitly ordered subordinates to classify intelligence reports as too sensitive to share, with Capitol Police and other agencies responsible for security. But the real bombshell was what the intelligence operatives discovered about Patel's current activities. The classified documents revealed that he was still actively working to cover up his January 6 failures, using his network of loyalists inside the intelligence community to identify and silence potential witnesses. 3 former Pentagon officials who could have exposed him had mysteriously lost their security clearances. 2 others had been transferred to dead-end positions overseas. The pattern was unmistakable. Patel was systematically eliminating anyone who could threaten him. The decision to feed this intelligence to Crockett was itself a calculated risk that could have triggered a constitutional crisis. By choosing a freshman congresswoman over more senior committee members, the intelligence operatives were sending a clear message. The corruption went so deep that only someone completely outside the Washington establishment could be trusted with the truth. They had studied Crockett's background, her courtroom victories against corrupt officials, and her complete independence from the intelligence community's influence networks. On the morning of the hearing, Crockett received one final encrypted message that made her blood run cold. Patel knows something is coming. His allies in the intelligence community have been activated to destroy you if you proceed. The evidence we've given you is your only protection because once it's public, they can't silence you without confirming everything. Good luck. And remember that the future of American democracy may depend on what you do in that room today. As Patel walked confidently into the hearing room that morning, flanked by high-powered attorneys and Washington insiders who believed their connections made them untouchable, he had no idea that he was walking into a trap 3 years in the making. The intelligence professionals he had betrayed were about to get their revenge through the most unlikely weapon imaginable. A former defense attorney from Texas who specialized in destroying powerful men who thought they were above the law. The moment Jasmine Crockett opened that classified folder, Kash Patel's world began to collapse in real time on live television. Mr. Patel, she began with surgical precision, this defense intelligence memo dated January 3, 2021, shows you received explicit warnings that armed groups were planning to breach the Capitol building. Can you explain why you classified this as too sensitive to share instead of immediately alerting Capitol Police? The color drained from Patel's face as cameras zoomed in on the top secret document she held up, its red classification stamps visible to millions of viewers. Patel's first attempt at damage control was pathetic. Congresswoman, that document appears to be taken out of context. Intelligence assessments often contain preliminary information that requires further verification before. Crockett cut him off with the ruthlessness of a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. Mr. Patel, this isn't preliminary information. This is a detailed report from your own analysts warning that the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers had specific plans to enter the Capitol building through the east entrance at exactly 1:15 p.m. on January 6. They were right to the minute. The hearing room erupted in shocked gasps as Crockett revealed that the intelligence had been so precise it included the exact time and location of the breach. Committee members exchanged stunned glances while Patel frantically whispered with his attorneys, his confident facade completely shattered. But Crockett was just getting started. "This is your personal phone number, isn't it, Mr. Patel?" she asked, holding up a phone log. "And this shows you received 17 calls from Pentagon security officials on January 5th, all marked as urgent regarding Capitol threat assessment. You didn't return a single one." Patel tried to regain control with increasing desperation. "Congresswoman, you're mischaracterizing routine intelligence procedures." But Crockett had moved on to an even more devastating piece of evidence. Let me read you this text message sent from your personal phone to an unknown number on January 4th at 11:47 p.m. The optics need to be managed carefully. Too much security response will make it look like we're expecting trouble. Let the situation develop naturally. The silence in the room was deafening as the implications hit everyone simultaneously. Patel hadn't just hidden intelligence, he had actively prevented adequate security. The breaking point came when Crockett played an audio recording that shattered any remaining doubt about Patel's guilt. "This is a recorded phone call between you and Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez on January 5th at 6:23 a.m. I'm going to play it now." Patel's own voice filled the hearing room. "Sarah, I need you to reclassify those threat assessments as TSSCI immediately. They cannot leave this building under any circumstances. If anyone asks, tell them the intelligence was too fragmented to be actionable." The recording continued with Martinez protesting that people's lives were at risk, and Patel coldly responding, "The political situation is too delicate. These reports stay buried." As his own recorded voice condemned him, Patel's composure completely collapsed. His hands shook uncontrollably as he realized that his deepest secrets had been exposed to the entire world. "That recording was taken out of context," he shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "You don't understand the complexities of intelligence operations." But Crockett had one final bombshell that would destroy him completely. "Mr. Patel, after the January 6th attack, you personally ordered the destruction of 12 intelligence reports that could have prevented it. This email to the Pentagon Records Management Office, sent from your official account on January 12th, orders the immediate secure disposal of all threat assessments related to domestic extremist groups. You tried to destroy the evidence of your own negligence." The hearing room exploded in chaos as senators demanded answers, reporters frantically typed updates, and Patel sat frozen in his chair like a man watching his entire life burn down around him. Chairman Durbin called for order, but the damage was irreversible. In less than 30 minutes, Jasmine Crockett had systematically destroyed one of the most powerful intelligence officials in recent history, exposing a cover-up so massive it would reshape American politics forever. But the most shocking revelation was still to come, and when Crockett dropped her final piece of evidence, even the most seasoned Washington insiders would be left speechless. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on, because what happens next will expose a conspiracy that reaches the very top of the American government. Within minutes of Jasmine Crockett's devastating revelation, the entire United States government went into full crisis mode. Emergency meetings erupted across Washington as the implications of Patel's exposed cover-up sent shockwaves through every intelligence agency, congressional office, and newsroom in America. The FBI director immediately called an emergency session with all department heads, while the Pentagon activated its crisis communication protocols for the first time since 9/11. This wasn't just a political scandal, this was a national security catastrophe that threatened to bring down multiple government institutions. The media explosion was unlike anything Washington had seen in decades. Within 30 minutes, every major news network had interrupted regular programming with breaking news alerts. CNN's Anderson Cooper declared it the most significant government accountability moment since Watergate, while Fox News struggled to defend Patel against the overwhelming evidence of his recorded confessions. Social media platforms crashed under the weight of millions of Americans sharing clips of Patel's destruction, with #PatelCoverUp trending worldwide within an hour. The hashtag #CrockettTruth became the fastest-growing political trend in Twitter history. But the real panic was happening behind closed doors in the intelligence community. Emergency secure communications buzzed between CIA headquarters, the Pentagon, and NSA facilities as officials realized that if Patel had been operating a systematic cover-up operation, how many other classified operations had been compromised. 3 senior intelligence officials immediately requested emergency meetings with congressional leadership, while others began frantically reviewing every operation Patel had touched during his government service. The fear was palpable. If one person could hide intelligence that cost American lives, what else was being hidden? The political fallout was immediate and brutal. Within 2 hours of the hearing, 17 Republican senators who had previously supported Patel's nomination issued statements withdrawing their endorsements. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, known for his measured responses, called the revelations deeply disturbing and requiring immediate investigation. Even Trump loyalists began distancing themselves, with several former administration officials claiming they had no knowledge of Patel's intelligence activities. The speed of the political abandonment was breathtaking. Patel went from Washington power player to political pariah in less than 3 hours. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett found herself thrust into the national spotlight in a way no freshman congresswoman had ever experienced. Her phone exploded with interview requests from every major media outlet, book publishers offering 7-figure deals, and political consultants begging to represent her inevitable presidential campaign. Security teams rushed to protect her after intelligence officials warned that Patel's exposure had likely triggered retaliation protocols from unknown actors who had been protected by his cover-up network. The woman who had walked into the hearing as a relatively unknown congresswoman was now being called the most important accountability figure since Deep Throat. The legal implications moved at lightning speed. The Department of Justice announced within 4 hours that it was opening a criminal investigation into Patel's activities, with Attorney General Merrick Garland personally overseeing the case. Federal prosecutors began reviewing every congressional testimony Patel had given, looking for additional perjury charges that could result in decades in prison. Legal experts on television were already predicting that this could become the largest government accountability prosecution in American history, potentially involving dozens of co-conspirators who had helped maintain Patel's cover-up operation. As the sun set on Washington that evening, the Capitol was a city in chaos. Protesters had gathered outside the FBI building demanding accountability, while counter-protesters defended Patel as a victim of a deep state conspiracy. Emergency congressional sessions were being planned for the next day. Intelligence officials were being recalled from overseas assignments, and legal teams across the government were working through the night to assess the damage. The government institution that Americans had trusted to protect them had been exposed as fundamentally compromised, and nobody knew how deep the corruption actually went. The most terrifying realization was just beginning to sink in. If Kash Patel could hide intelligence that led to January 6th, and if it took 3 years and a secret intelligence operation to expose him, how many other cover-ups were still buried in the classified world of American national security? The answer to that question would determine whether American democracy could survive this moment of reckoning. 6 months after Jasmine Crockett destroyed Kash Patel's life on live television, the shockwaves were still reshaping American democracy in ways nobody could have predicted. Patel himself had vanished from public view after pleading guilty to 17 felony charges, including conspiracy to obstruct justice, destruction of classified evidence, and lying to Congress under oath. His sentencing hearing revealed the full scope of his cover-up network. 12 government officials across 4 agencies had been systematically hiding intelligence failures, silencing whistleblowers, and manipulating congressional investigations for over 3 years. The conspiracy was so vast that federal prosecutors compared it to a shadow government operating within the government. But Patel's downfall was just the beginning of what historians would later call the Crockett Revolution. The freshman congresswoman had become the most powerful accountability figure in modern American politics, using her newfound influence to systematically dismantle the secrecy networks that had enabled Patel's crimes. Her new committee, the House Select Committee on Intelligence Accountability, had forced the resignation of 14 senior intelligence officials, declassified over 40,000 previously hidden documents, and exposed cover-ups spanning multiple administrations. The committee's motto, emblazoned on their official letterhead, was taken from Crockett's own words: "Sunlight is the only disinfectant powerful enough to kill government corruption." The intelligence community itself had been fundamentally transformed by what became known as the Patriot 7 Protocols, named after the anonymous DIA analyst who had first contacted Crockett. New whistleblower protection laws made it impossible for officials to retaliate against those who exposed government misconduct, while mandatory declassification reviews ensured that intelligence could no longer be hidden to protect careers instead of national security. The changes were so sweeping that former CIA Director John Brennan called them the most significant intelligence reform since the creation of the CIA itself. Jasmine Crockett's own trajectory had been equally revolutionary. Within a year of exposing Patel, she had been elected House Minority Leader by the largest margin in congressional history, with even Republican members acknowledging her unique ability to hold government accountable. Her 2024 book, The Accountability Revolution: How One Hearing Changed American Democracy, had spent 47 weeks at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Political analysts were already predicting that she would be the Democratic presidential nominee in 2028, with polls showing her defeating any potential Republican opponent by double digits. The broader impact on American democracy was equally profound. Public trust in government institutions, which had been declining for decades, experienced its largest single-year increase since World War II, according to Gallup polling. Citizens who had believed that powerful officials were untouchable suddenly saw evidence that accountability was still possible in America. The Crockett effect had inspired similar accountability movements in state governments across the country, with local prosecutors and legislators using her techniques to expose corruption at every level of government. Perhaps most importantly, the intelligence failures that led to January 6 had finally been fully exposed and addressed. The comprehensive investigation triggered by Crockett's revelations had identified 37 specific intelligence breakdowns that could have prevented the Capitol attack. New protocols ensured that critical threat intelligence could never again be buried by a single official, while enhanced congressional oversight made it impossible for future cover-ups to survive scrutiny. The families of January 6 victims, who had spent years demanding answers, finally had the full truth about how their government had failed them. The international implications were equally significant. Allied intelligence agencies, which had lost trust in American security institutions after years of political manipulation, began sharing critical intelligence again after seeing the accountability reforms. NATO officials credited the Crockett reforms with restoring confidence in American democratic institutions, while authoritarian governments around the world watched nervously as their own citizens demanded similar accountability from their leaders. As Kash Patel began serving his 23-year federal prison sentence, the man who had once wielded enormous secret power had become a cautionary tale about the ultimate triumph of truth over corruption. His final statement to the court was a warning that few heeded: "You have no idea how many others are still out there, still hiding in the classified world, still believing they are untouchable." But Jasmine Crockett had proven that in America, nobody is untouchable when the people demand accountability and have leaders brave enough to deliver it. The story of how one congresswoman's courage changed American democracy forever shows us that even in our darkest moments, truth and accountability can still prevail. If this story inspired you to believe in the power of holding our government accountable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this story with everyone who needs to remember that in America, we the people still have the power to demand the truth from those who serve us.